Police investigators thought two men might be lying about an alien encounter, so they left them alone and secretly kept a recorder running. If the story was a performance, this was the moment it should have ended. It did not. This is Field File Number 6, the Pascagoula Hidden Tape. On the evening of October the 11th, 1973, 42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker went fishing after work beside the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. The shipyard workers chose an old pier on the west bank. At around 9 o'clock, the quiet was broken by a sudden zipping or whizzing sound. The men turned and saw two flashing blue lights. Behind them, they said, an elongated football-shaped object had appeared, roughly 10 meters long and hovering just above the ground. An opening formed in the object. 3 figures glided out. They were not the familiar large-eyed grey aliens. Hickson described neckless, robotic humanoids just over 5 feet tall, with deeply wrinkled grey skin. Slits marked the eyes and mouth. Sharp projections replaced the nose and ears. Long arms ended in pincers, while the legs appeared joined into a pedestal-like lower body. Hickson said he and Parker were conscious but unable to move. Parker became overwhelmed and apparently lost consciousness. The figures seemed to float the men toward the opening without visible support. Inside, Hickson claimed he was held in a suspended state while a large mechanical eye moved across his body as if examining him. After approximately 20 minutes, both men were returned to the riverbank and the object disappeared. The men sat in a car trying to recover. Hickson drank some whiskey after the alleged event. They tried contacting Keesler Air Force Base and were directed to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. They arrived with an extraordinary account and no physical proof. The officers were understandably suspicious. They questioned the men separately, then placed them together in a room and walked out, but a recorder was still running. The officers expected the story to collapse once the witnesses believed they were alone. Instead, the tape captured continued fear. Parker spoke about wanting to cry. Hickson repeated that he had never seen anything like it. Neither man laughed, celebrated, or admitted a deception. The most revealing moment came after the officers left Hickson and Parker alone, unaware that the recorder was still running.
Once you out of that damn thing, and when you brought me out, I like to know where the hell I like to know where the hell got you straightened out.
Their private reaction does not prove what they encountered, but supporters argue that the distress heard when they believed nobody was listening is difficult to dismiss. Years later, Sheriff's Captain Glenn Ryder described how investigators had tried to break their accounts. His conclusion was blunt. If the men were lying, they should have been in Hollywood. The following day, the men were examined at Keesler Air Force Base and cleared of radiation exposure. That negative result was not evidence of a spacecraft, but officials had taken the report seriously enough to check. UFO investigators J. Allen Hynek and James Harder interviewed the witnesses. Hynek believed they had undergone a real and frightening experience. Hickson later passed a polygraph, but Parker did not take that test. Critics noted that the examiner was inexperienced and that polygraphs cannot establish what actually happened. There are other serious weaknesses. No photograph of the object or beings exists. No confirmed physical trace was recovered. The nearby highway was busy, yet no contemporary witness was shown to have seen the craft at the pier. Some details changed or expanded in later retellings. Skeptical investigator Joe Nickel proposed that a waking dream state and sleep paralysis could explain Hickson's imagery and inability to move, with Parker's later memories influenced by the older man's account. It is possible, but remains a hypothesis. 45 years later, another witness came forward. Maria Blair said she had been waiting in a car across the river when she saw a blue light moving silently near the reported location. She also remembered a loud splash and what looked like a person in the water. Because her account emerged decades later, it cannot carry the same weight as a statement recorded in 1973. That leaves the hidden tape. It does not prove that non-human beings landed beside the Pascagoula River. Fear can be genuine even when an interpretation is mistaken, but the recording makes a simple, carefree hoax harder to accept. The men sounded frightened when they believed nobody was listening, and both maintained the central claim for the rest of their lives. So what happened on that abandoned riverbank? A shared psychological event? An elaborate deception that never broke, even behind a closed door? Or a close encounter with something for which the witnesses had no language? Listen to the behavior, examine the evidence, and decide for yourself. If you had been the officer behind that recorder, would the hidden tape have convinced you? Field Record Archive, preserving the record, separating observation from assumption.